We are live.
You know what's bizarre is that you're hearing me.
We're live.
But I can't hear you. Maybe we'll do sign language.
We could always do that.
Yeah. Monster mash. Oh man, what a dud.
It's okay,
This
man.
is bizarre. I was just fiddling
We'll help
around
you
with
out.
Zoom, actually, and maybe
Can you guys just make him a sign to look at
and
the
maybe
chat?
that interfered with.
Because I'm writing in the
You know
private
what I'm going to
chat.
do? I'm going to restart the computer, and usually that helps out. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Is that
fine.
okay?
We'll be
Yeah.
here.
You guys will wait.
We will be here.
See you in a bit.
That's
All right,
fine.
now let's
'Cause
talk trash about him.
Well, hello, chat. Thank you for coming, and welcome to another episode of Horror Talk. So sorry we started a little late. Rob Muerto was having technical difficulties with his audio, and he's still having those. But we had to launch because Facebook was giving me the "Hey, you're fucking late" note alert. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that they had one. I didn't know they had one of those.
Yeah, no. They give you like 9 minutes to like start your stream after the schedule, or they kill it.
Okay.
Huh.
Mhm.
That's kind of whack, but
They don't mess around.
Well, whatever.
No.
It's Facebook.
War campaign wouldn't last long there.
No.
Definitely not. Yeah, you just have to excuse me. I'm looking for a lozenge. My throat's just a little.
They would have to. War Campaign
So-
would have to like launch their Facebook stream like when they went live.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
But yeah, folks, we are here tonight to talk about monster rallies.
That's what I was going to say. What's the subject today?
Monster rallies. That's to say, also known as monster mashes, also known as monster parties. It's a specific genre, or rather a subgenre, in which you take a monster from one movie and you take a monster from another movie and you put them together. And of course, they're not going to get along. They're going to have a kick-ass monster rumble.
So sometimes it doesn't have to do exactly with horror IPs that already exist. It's just like you could have a genre of a Frankenstein and, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rob's book.
Exactly. That's why, we were going to have Rob on tonight, and I figured, well, what really makes sense in terms of discussions of horror movies and Rob's wonderful project, Tales from the Classroom. Tales from the Classroom, of course, it's a comic book about high school life for a bunch of monsters.
Yeah, it reminded me of what's the Adam Sandler animated movie Transylvania or something like that.
Hotel Transylvania.
Hotel Transylvania. Yeah, except it's high school.
That
Can
would
you
be
hear
in
us?
the genre. That would be in the genre.
Still no go. You know what? There's that little ball that's usually red next to the StreamYard thing. It's gray. It's grayed out. I don't know what that means.
I think maybe he needs to go to his settings, like to his sound settings.
Yeah, you need to check your settings and select your microphone probably, or your speak. No, because it's not that. You don't select your speakers.
Yeah, it sometimes Google will reset the thing with the little camera there, won't detect your mic or anything because you have to
But that would be us hearing him though, not him hearing us.
No, because it could be just deafened.
Oh,
Right,
But
or you could have like the wrong device working.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? The wrong device selected.
But yeah, if you go here in this audio device, you have the speakers, so he's probably on the speak. No, because if he would have his speakers, he would hear us.
it would be an epic
that's what he
joke if
could
we were
do.
just messing with him. It would be epic if we were just hassling him.
Yeah, it would. It would be an excellent troll, but we don't treat our guests that way. Damn it. I shot you a bunch of links, Drew. We got a whole bunch of movies, movie trailers to look at. The Monster Mash, the Monster Rally has been a tradition going all the way back to the 1940s. To the, I'd say the first one would be Frankenstein Meets Wolfman, which is one of my favorite movies. One of the movies that got me into monsters and into horror when I was a little kid. Made a huge impression on me. Also made a gigantic impression on a Spanish writer, director, and actor named Paul Naschy, who went on to play a werewolf called Valdemar Daninsky in less than, I think, 12 movies.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like a movie that a lot of people don't like, but I like Van Helsing because it's a monster mash.
It is. It is. I just don't
Mhm.
like it because it's not a horror movie. Do
No.
you know what I'm saying? And then it's okay for other people to dig it. It's the same thing with like the Underworld films. I'm
A
like
lot of monster mashes aren't horror movies. Some of them are
the new
just
ones.
monster movies.
Yeah, but
You
it's
know?
like another one I liked a lot was the League of Extraordinary
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Oh, I
I
love
can
that.
hear
can
you
hear
now,
you.
but yeah, but
Underrated,
it's
in
on.
my opinion.
You can
I'm
hear
on my
us
cell
now?
phone now.
Okay. Well,
On
Hey,
the
that's
cell
what's up,
phone.
brother?
Yeah. What's up? What's
what's
going
going
on?
on, man.
Hey, buddy.
So your computer's just like not happy with StreamYard tonight. Is that what's going on?
It's just going bonkers, man, for some reason. Yeah, yeah. It's that little grayed out ball was must be signaling some kind of, I don't know what the deal is, man. But you know what? I was messing around with Zoom, and I think it may have changed some settings. And yeah,
Yep.
I hope the audio isn't too funky.
No,
No,
it's
you're good.
okay. You're good,
We're
brother.
good.
It's cool, man.
This is almost better. You know, there's I have some mobility. You know, I can do some push-ups and at the same time. Yeah.
It's all good.
Good. Thank you for
Yes.
having me, by the way.
Oh, our pleasure. Our
You're
pleasure.
welcome, man. Yeah.
You're one of the more interesting creators in Comicsgate. You have a wonderful book, a book that I think deserves better attention than it's getting, and we are happy to give it that attention and to talk monsters and to talk monster rallies.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm very excited to do it. And Brian, by the way, congratulations, because I see you've been getting some of the much needed exposure that your book well and truly deserves.
Yeah,
Thanks, brother.
I
Thanks,
noticed
brother.
that too. You got a nice like $2,000 bump almost. Was that is that what I saw that you were like up to 7 something?
Yep. Yeah, I'm up to 7,506. That was thanks to double whammy from Adam Post,
Mhm.
friend of the show, and I also was on. Well, I wasn't on, but Mandy, also friend of the show, Queen of Comicsgate, she was hosting a show where John Malin and Ethan and a couple other heavy hitters were hanging out.
Okay.
And Mandy was like, "Oh, like I promised Brian that like I'd have you take a look at his campaign because I've been getting like 2,000 visits and only 136 backers." I'm like, "Am I doing something wrong? Are people getting confused by the choices and the teams and everything?" Like, I just was curious. I wanted to know what like what's up, right? So John took a look at it. He praised it, said it was fine, and said, he advised me to like maybe go back in time and release each issue by itself. But of course, that's not going to happen. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't. But it gave me a big bump, and the fact that Ethan loves the book and he mentioned that he loved the book, and Cecil, of course, loves the book. That just gave me like gave me that jolt in my campaign the jolt in the ass that it needed.
All right. Yeah. Well, congrats, man. And
Thanks,
again, it's
brother.
much needed. It's much
Thanks,
needed and deserved. But I was going to ask you, do you have like a digital option edition of the book or no?
I did for the last campaign, and I will.
You
I will,
did?
and I will for this campaign too. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's going to come at the end of the campaign. But I'll, you being a friend of the show, I'll shoot you a copy free of charge. We'd be happy to.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have, because I'm at the moment I'm distributing digital copies of Tales because I just ordered the final print run
Yeah.
of the book, and then it's a matter of I'm getting at the very final stage, and I'm sitting on these digital copies of the book, and I'm distributing them as we speak.
Excellent.
And yeah, I think we were speaking about Ethan and getting exposure to the books, and via the big cats and Comicsgate, and the only viable way that I see of getting these books to their hands, short of doxing them and figuring out where they live, is doing it via the digital method.
Well, Ethan and Cecil both have PO boxes, and
Okay.
you can send them to their PO boxes. They even do
I didn't know
unboxing
that.
videos. What was that?
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
For,
Oh yeah. And people like Antonio, people like Clint, Stoker, Sweetcast. Just talk to them, and it never hurts to shoot somebody a PM and say, "Hey, I'd like to send you a copy, a physical copy or a digital copy of my book for you just to check out and consider it a review copy. Don't feel obliged to buy it or anything." And yeah, and if they're comfortable with that, they'll send you their private email or their snail mail address. Never hurts to ask.
True.
So by all means, go for it.
Well, I think it's awesome that you got your book promoted by Ethan and John on Mandy's channel. That probably had a really large audience and resulted in a bunch of sales. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm very psyched about that. If I'd been on air, I would have plugged y'all's books. You know that. I always try to do that. I always try to.
You're always trying to plug something, man. No,
yeah, I am. It's in my nature. What can I?
Just don't stand behind me. Just don't stand behind me.
I shan't. I shan't. So of course we have the wonderful Rob Muerto, and I have my Dios dos Muertos mug, nice and handy.
Thank you.
And we are here tonight to talk about monster rallies. That is to say, also known as monster mashes. That's to say, horror movies with one or more monsters, usually from separate films, thrown together. The very first of these was Frankenstein meets Wolfman. I want to say 1942. The story behind that's really kind of interesting because, well, I should say it's confusing. Because the Frankenstein monster in that is played by Bela Lugosi. And Bela Lugosi was offered the part of the Frankenstein monster for the original James Whale Frankenstein. But he turned the part down because he felt, he'd be covered in so much makeup that people wouldn't be able to recognize his handsome face. And that ended up being the biggest regret of his career because not only did he miss out on that wonderful part, but it went to a unknown actor who then became his greatest rival, Boris Karloff. Very strange history. I'm going to try to get this straight on the first run. Okay. So, Ghost of Frankenstein comes along. Which is the follow-up to Son of Frankenstein, which features Karloff's last appearance as the monster. At the end of that, he falls into a sulfur pit. The sequel to that, Ghost of Frankenstein, features Lon Chaney Jr. playing the monster. You've got Frankenstein meets Wolfman right here. Yeah, and I'm leading up to this. Okay, so Ghost of Frankenstein. At the end of that, Igor, played by played by Lugosi, has his brain transplanted into the monster's body. And so when the monster starts speaking, he's speaking with Igor's voice. But something goes wrong. Like he has the wrong blood type or something like that, and he goes blind. And he starts staggering around like this. That image that we've had of the Frankenstein monster lurching around with his hands in front of him, that's exactly where it comes from. It comes from Ghost of Frankenstein. So
it was from that one moment. It's not like he's doing this throughout all the movies.
No, but starting then, actually, that sort of became the thing.
Okay, it became like a trope. Okay.
Yeah. So Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. They had, I think it was Kurt Siodmak who wrote the original Wolfman, writing the script, and it is it's also a sequel to, of course, the Wolfman, and which didn't have a series of its own. But Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman played by Lon Chaney Jr., went on to play Lawrence Talbot in 4 more films. So it's sort of like, the Larry Talbot / Wolfman Chronicles, which surprisingly has a happy ending. And the very last chapter, which is House of Dracula. That's not counting Frankenstein meets Wolfman later. Okay, so back to Frankenstein meets Wolfman. So now they cast. Karloff didn't want to play the monster anymore. He was done. And the monster was always very precious to him, and he was like, "But I'm done playing the Frankenstein monster. Not interested." So they were like, "Well, okay, now that the monster has the brain of Igor, played by Bela Lugosi, why don't we cast Lugosi as the monster?" And the original script, if you read the original screenplay, which does exist, the monster talks throughout the story in the voice of Igor. It's Igor who's the monster now, but he has trouble seeing, and so that's why you'll see him doing a lot of this stuff. They cut all of that out of the movie, which makes it somewhat confusing because then you're like, wait a second, so like, does it have Igor's brain now, or is it like the original monster again? Or what?
Do you learn talking from hanging out with Igor?
No. He learned. Well, the original monster learned how to talk from O.P. Heggie, the blind man, in Bride of Frankenstein, of course.
So before we start this, I'll go in the chat and say welcome to Lothar D.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Wiggle.
In the chat.
Wiggle. There's El Gargoyle. Oh, we have somebody drew.
Michael Green.
I don't know. We have the Ascending, Apodicon, Felix Has, Z-Rush, and Michael Green saying, "Yo, what's up, Sim? What's up, Michael?" And we have the Mighty Beacon in the chat.
Hail, everybody.
Hail to everyone in the chat.
Hail, brothers.
Hail, El Gargoyle.
Hail. By the way, I didn't even get to say hi to you, Sim, and to Doc Love. Not officially. So, thank you for having me in your show. All of you guys.
Obviously, brother.
Yeah, sorry if I just immediately took a deep dive into horror trivia and history. I'm a habit of doing that.
It's been very informative so far, and believe it or not, I'm not as versed into this classic monster lore as I probably should be. But
that's okay.
But it's something. So it's a learning experience for me, and it's something that I've always wanted to delve into, and now you're really pushing me up against the wall. I'm going to do it soon, man. I'm gonna do a monster marathon.
Like I was saying before you came in, I'm like your book reminds me of like a high school version of Hotel Transylvania, like that type of yeah.
Is that any good? Should I check that out?
The cartoon Hotel Transylvania?
Yeah.
It's a fun cartoon.
If you're watching it with children, maybe.
That means no.
It's better than Monster High. Let's just say that.
Yes. And the reason why I'm doing the comparison is because Rob's
Monster High is for girls, man.
Rob's book looks a lot like it's a cartoon, like it's animated, like those old Disney cartoon, like Tailspin or stuff like that.
Yeah. The art definitely does have a animated look for sure.
Yeah,
which I think which suits it nicely.
But there's story too.
Oh, of course, without a doubt. What's up, DJ D Show?
Oh, DJ D. What's up, brother?
D, what's up, brother? How's it going, man?
So yeah, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, the very first Monster Rally.
Wasn't the second one was with the Invisible Man and?
No, the second one was House of Frankenstein.
Oh,
we're going through these, and it's such a shame that they botched up the new Universal Monsters reboot. As profoundly as they did, and they've been trying to launch this thing for forever, and always always putting out such
shit
crap movies, man. It's crazy. Even Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman was such a missed opportunity.
It was. I think so too. I know Sim likes it. I know a lot of other people like it. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it is a missed opportunity because what they should have done instead of making The Mummy like a $200 million epic with Tom Cruise, what they should do is they should make these smaller movies, $20 to $50 million budgets, and make the monsters scary again. Make
Go
these
back.
horror films.
Don't do them like they're not blockbusters. They were never made to be blockbusters.
No, these were B movies to a large extent.
Back when B movies meant independent. Then after that, B movies became more of a parody type. Yeah.
B movie term means that they're not A-list movies. That means they're like B-side, like on a single. You know, you have the A song and then the B-side. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
the supporting.
Because you used to go to the movies and you would go and it would be a whole thing. You'd have a cartoon, you'd have a newsreel, then you'd have the A movie and the B movie, or the B movie and then the A movie. Sometimes you'd have an episode of the Republic movie serials, you know, like Flash Gordon or the Phantom Empire or something like that. Most of these movies are about an hour and 15 minutes. And that's very much with the intention of making them perfect for like a double feature.
Yeah, they weren't. I don't think they were designed to be double features, because a lot of movies were made short back then because of just budgeting, but and how much work went into making a movie. They were actually designed to be feature films when they made them, but based on the era. You know, it was about knowing your audience and feeding your audience what they would consume, you know, and you got to think of like where people were with their money back then, and, you know, and how many people actually went to the movies, because it's funny, like, you know, before the virus, a lot more people went to the movies now, even though we have all this stuff, you know, to watch on television and on the internet and all that kind of stuff than then. You know, I mean, you
didn't even have TV; you just had the radio.
Yeah, it wasn't even really until like you know, the maybe the early 60s before movie theaters started really blowing up, and then like the 70s they like exploded with the massive chains. You know.
Yep.
So.
And then the 80s, the multiplexes.
Movie theaters.
You know what, man? I bet you if they did a straight up remake of these movies, instead of rebooting them, you know, and just trying a completely fresh and novel approach, if they just remade them, they would have done much better than these. Totally.
I like Brian's idea. I like Brian's idea of making them again, but not trying to like Hollywood them or trying to recreate what was done, but to turn them into genuine horror flicks.
Yeah, make them scary. Make them really terrifying again.
Make them so scary that they're questioning the R rating.
Yes. And then of course you could have House of Frankenstein, right? Then you have the Monster Rally. Then you because that's what they were planning all along, you know, with the dark universe. It's just Universal screwed the pooch with the Universal monsters in the worst way. And the biggest mistake that they ever made was taking these movies off of television and putting them just on VHS. So the only way you could see them was on VHS. They lost an entire generation of fans that way. And this was still back, you know, when you didn't have like 1,000 channels. And, you know, to a large extent, you know, you would watch what was on TV, and suddenly they were like, nope, we're going to do what Disney did. And, you know, like Disney would just, they would never put their movies out on videotape, and they would just re-release them theatrically. And then they were almost bankrupt, and then they released them on videotape and they blew up big. Universal tried the same thing, and, you know, putting them on VHS, fine. But by taking them off of television, you know, terrible. Because you know, they were, of course, now of course they were thinking, ooh, Marvel Universe, well, DC Universe, we'll have the Dark Universe.
But I agree with what Michael just said there. Well, though I see The Shape of Water as basically a weird sequel to Creature.
It is.
They should get filmmakers like Del Toro to make.
I agree.
Movies.
I agree.
The Shape of Water.
That's such an obvious thing. Why wouldn't they like get Del Toro, who's the monster sort of? He's the director for monster movies, really.
Yep.
I think one of the things that you need for sure with these movies is to have a director with a very strong visual sense that brings it back to practical special effects and makeup.
Yes.
They should have
John
tried and
Carpenter.
that's what I was gonna say. They should have tried and get Carpenter, and there was
He
another
was he was planning ages ago to do a remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon, right? Get him to do Creature from the Black Lagoon.
There was
and make
Sam Raimi too that wanted to do a remake of one of those films.
Right. Get those cats. And the new Invisible Man, it has nothing to do with the Invisible Man. There, in fact, not to drop any major spoilers, there isn't even an Invisible Man in the movie. It's called The Invisible Man. There's no Invisible Man.
But let's talk. We're talking the movie.
That's how invisible he is. He's not even in the. He's not even.
There you go.
Right now we are talking the movie business. So that brings us back to the bottom line, the profit factor, the negotiations, the all the bullshit. Especially like if you are a big company like Universal and you're coming at somebody saying, "Oh, we want you to be in the movie," you know what I mean? It's that it changes the whole landscape because they're not like, "Oh, sure." They're like, "Okay, well, I'll talk to my agent." And let my agent negotiate something, and then who knows if the agent fucks it up or not,
Well, here's the thing about horror. You don't need Tom Cruise for a horror movie.
No, okay, but okay, so when you're making a horror movie, don't get Tom Cruise. What I'm saying is like if you're Universal or you're one of these big, people that pretty much have instant box office access. You know what I mean? One of these companies like Warner Brothers, like New Line Cinema, Rogue Pictures, these companies that have that have instant, box office access, which if you have box office access and you're successful there, you're pretty much guaranteed to hit all the other avenues successfully. So the problem that when they do this, they look at paperwork and numbers. Then they have people going who they've hired that they put their faith in to take it to the next step. So it's not like there's like the same person deciding everything from end to end. You know what I mean? So it's like one person's deciding, oh, let's do this movie. Then the next person down the line is deciding, okay, well, this is who we'll cast in it. You know what I mean? Then the next person down the line is deciding who's going to direct it. You know what I mean? And
sure. But as I was saying,
but ultimately there's a studio head that can say, you know what, screw this nonsense. We're going to do it this way.
You're right. There is, but those people.
Studio heads are for.
Yeah, you're right. That's what they're for, but that's not the purpose they serve anymore. Now they serve like a corporate CEO, and they're concerned about the financial bottom line, and that's all. And they don't have any actual filmmaking experience. Even though it's like everyone's like Kathleen Kennedy is like a piece of shit. I mean, she is the producer for the Hook with Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams. You know what I mean? So it's like they're. I'm not saying she's a piece of shit. I'm saying that as far as that goes, Star Wars was out of her depth. You know what I mean?
I totally get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But even from a business standpoint and a bottom line standpoint, Brian's take on the franchise would be more attractive because you're spending less and potentially making more.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with Brian's
movie
point.
Stars, because the thing about horror as a genre is that the genre is the star.
Okay, so I'll break down some movie world business bullshit. This is really boring stuff, but everybody listen. Okay, it's actually not that boring. All right, so there's a couple of things in the movie business that drives a movie to get like they don't actually work with real money for the most part. Okay, most everything is done in trade or in promises. So for instance, it's like if you're going to hire a huge team to work on something, and if you can convince them that they're gonna basically donate their time for a minimum number and then take some on the back end, the more you can work those kinds of deals, right, where you're paying them a minimum amount up front and then you're taking a maximum on the back end, right? That is part of the business model. They want to maximize those kinds of situations so that they're using less money up front because they don't think like normal business. They have their own way of business world thinking on that, but it's still a movie business. And then another factor is they don't work with their own money. Also, they bring investors in, right? So these are fat cats, people who want to be excited about the movie. You're not exciting somebody about the movie by saying, "Oh, we're making an old movie from the 50s again, and we're using a bunch of unknowns." Ooh, no. You're gonna say, "Oh, we're gonna make the Wolfman, and we're gonna have another Wolfman remake, and we're gonna get, a super famous actor, and I think we're gonna get Jack Nicholson." You know what I mean? And everybody's all, really? You know what I mean? It's like, Jack Nicholson? Holy shit, I would love to be involved in a Jack Nicholson movie. And that's, how they fucking make that shit roll. Because then they're like, yeah, because we know that we could talk Jack Nicholson into doing a classic like that because he's thinking it's going to turn out something awesome and fantastic. You know what I mean? And then it gets turned into a piece of crap because you get the wrong director, you get, what I mean? You get the, the wrong cinematographer, you know what I mean? You get, and it turns to shit, um,
But you look at what Blumhouse is doing, for instance, right? The Invisible Man remake, shot on a very modest budget, no movie stars, and it was a hit. It's a piece of crap.
It was a hit.
Was
Well, wait a minute. There was
successful.
an Invisible Man that was a hit. This flew under my radar.
Yeah,
it wasn't really a hit.
It wasn't a blockbuster.
Right.
It wasn't a blockbuster, but it damn well turned a
It
profit
was a success
because they kept the
It was a success.
because they
And
they
who did
made
it
it.
star? Who did it star?
Nobody I could think of. I can't think of any of the actors' names.
Well, you see, but that's the model, man. You don't need a star for
No, the genre is the star.
But they didn't make enough money at the box office to be considered a hit, and
it could have made enough to produce a sequel.
I'm not trying to argue the quality of the movie. I'm not trying to argue that.
No, I understand.
I'm trying to explain the business of movie making and how these fucking assholes who are pushing pencils on paper, not even that anymore, but it's, they used to be what we'd call paper pushers,
right.
Yeah,
number crunchers.
Those are the people that have taken over the industry. It's always been like that, and to some degree. But you used to have like studio heads like Alan Ladd Jr.
Yes.
that were more creatively oriented and would take risks.
They were passionate about the industry, and they
loved movies.
And they loved movies, and they loved a good time, and they loved a good party.
And Alan Ladd Jr., of course, was the guy who greenlit this weird little science fiction movie called, what was it? Star Wars?
Yeah, an alien as well, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Which was produced by Walter Hill and written by Dan O'Bannon. Actually, there's Lugosi as the monster. He's wearing the big lifts, like the Kiss boots, the Kiss style platform Frankenstein boots.
The one thing I never understood was like, did he have something in his design that was counterproductive, and he had to lift his arms forward to balance himself out? Why did Frankenstein monster instinctively feel as though he needed to lift his arms? I mean, I know it just looks creepy, like he's coming after you.
He's blind.
He's blind.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Is that what it is? Or is it rigor mortis?
He's blind. He's blind because what happened was Igor. I don't know how many people here have seen Son of Frankenstein. If you haven't seen Son of Frankenstein, check it out. It's a classic. It's the least of the original trilogy, but it's still a absolutely fantastic movie. In that, Bela gives his best performance ever as Igor, who was like a thief and a killer, who was hung and had his neck broken. And since they hung him, he was sentenced to hang. They hung him, but he survived. They just let him go, and so he's been walking around with his neck like this, for like the last 20 years because his neck was broken and it healed badly. And so he uses the Frankenstein monster as an assassin to kill the Burgermeister and all the other people that were on the jury that sentenced him to death. So in Ghost of Frankenstein, he has a plan. He's like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get like Frankenstein's grandson to take my brain out of my broken body and place it in the monster's body. And that way I'll be immortal and I'll be indestructible and I will rule the world. However, something goes wrong. Maybe because he's like the wrong blood type or something like that, and he goes blind. And so the movie ends with him walking around like this through a burning building. The burning building collapses, so he's dead. But of course, whenever these monsters die, we always know they're coming back again. And so he comes back in this. Lawrence Talbot, aka the Wolfman, finds him buried in ice. He digs him out and decides that he's going to work with him to try to find Frankenstein's granddaughter, who will hopefully know the secret of life and death. And of course, what Larry Talbot is looking to do, his greatest ambition in life is to die. So he will be finally freed from the curse of the werewolf.
It's a good premise.
Oh, it's great! It's great. This would have been a classic if it weren't for just a couple of things. But yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Oh shit, we lost Rob again.
You just went mute, Rob.
We just lost your audio, Rob. And now we hear you.
Oh, yeah. Now we got you.
Okay, you can hear me again. All right, great. So, like, what I was saying is that the idea of the dark universe is very compelling. There's a lot of juice there for it to be to make for great material, and the fact that like they were wise to like the MCU and how that worked out. That's something that we can all get on board. We all have geek sensibilities, and we'd love to see, I think, a movie that would see Dracula versus Frankenstein or what have you. Who would win in a fight, Dracula or Frankenstein?
Exactly.
That's sort of like mind-blowing premise that is sure to get people's butts in seats, especially since geek sensibilities became sort of mainstream. Sort of, no, completely.
Right. Although the monsters are somewhat forgotten, in the 80s, for instance, like I said, once Universal took the Universal monsters off of television and just put them on VHS, most kids didn't know who, most kids can recognize the Frankenstein monster, but a lot of kids couldn't recognize a lot of the classic monsters, but they could recognize Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees.
Well, we discussed this before. It's the reason why I started like my first book in CG, His Blood Hunt, and the wink of Vincent Price. I wanted to bring back the classic vampire. That's why I'm covering the ancient vampires and not just like yeah. I wanted to bring back those type of movies because one of my favorite ones is Frankenstein. And technically, what I really liked about it is they present you with a scary fucking monster, but by the end of the story, he's the hero.
Yeah, he's the victim, really. Yeah.
But he doesn't. But yeah, that's the thing.
Optimus sends his love.
But he doesn't fall.
He sent it right back at you, Optimus.
But he doesn't fall into victimhood. It gets vengeance on this.
It's like Dr. Pretorius says in Bride of Frankenstein. Oh, don't worry about him. He's perfectly harmless unless he's crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't piss him off, or he'll like tear your arms out. Stick them up your ass.
What did they say about nice guys?
Yeah, don't fuck with him. Don't fuck with him. And the reason why he's violent in the first place is because his brain was encoded with violence because that scumbag Fritz was torturing him when Frankenstein wasn't around to see what was going on. That's why he has the fear of fire, was because Fritz was fucking with him with the torch. And then, of course, Frankenstein comes in and finds Fritz hanging from, what was it, a whip, I think? But, the monster finally learned how to fight back. And fight back he did. Here we have House of Frankenstein, which is the first, which is features John Carradine as Dracula. That's J. Carroll Naish as the Hunchback. As Frankenstein, we have Boris Karloff. That's not to say he doesn't play the Frankenstein monster, The Frankenstein monster is played by a Western actor named Glenn Strange. He was like a big guy, so they were just like, "Oh, you'll do," and he actually did a fine job in this and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And of course, we have the great Lon Chaney Jr. resuming his role as Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman, still on his quest to die.
So does Dr. Does Hyde feature into this or no? Is he part of the Universal plethora?
No,
Monsters?
because the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie that was made by Ruben Mamoulian, that was, I think, still the
Which
best.
is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. That was produced by Paramount.
Ah,
Yeah,
fantastic performance by the actor. You just named him, I think. His name escapes me.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it now because he was mainly a comedic actor, and I'd say the only problem with that movie is the fact that the makeup is a little too extreme. Like, he looks just like a straight up Neanderthal.
Yeah, like a troglodyte.
Frederick March. And the whole thing with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is that Mr. Hyde, there's nothing about him that you can point out and say, like, geez, that's freaky about him. There's just something that people can't describe, but they look him in the eye and they hate him. And
right, that's in the that's in the novel. That's in the novel. I mean, in the movies, obviously they have.
That book's barely a novel. It's a short story.
It's a novella.
Yeah.
And
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
It's great.
It's fantastic. And by the way, it's one of the great plot twists of all time. Except it's not a plot twist to us because we all know it. And now
Exactly.
I've had to buy it. I've had to buy it 10 different times at least because I buy the soft covers and I fucking read it over and over and over again so many times that it's wore the fuck out.
Oh,
see,
dude.
I would own a big one like that, except I'd be tempted to read it and fuck it up.
No, this is great. It's not that it looks bigger than because it's in front of the camera. It's actually quite small. But
oh, okay, yeah. I'd go grab mine, but I'm attached to headphones.
And also, you already have the Wolfman, right? And Stephen King would argue that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and the Wolfman are pretty much the same monster, that they represent the same thing. I would disagree with that because Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman, doesn't want to be the fucking Wolfman. It's a curse. Whereas Dr. Jekyll, secretly, he wants to be Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, but you could also go to the point that werewolves is the animal aspect. It's the thing that people, fear from nature.
Beast within.
Right? It's the beast, the beast within. Wow. Yeah. Jekyll and Hyde is the dark side of a human.
Exactly. It's the Jungian shadow self.
Yeah, like no inhibition, like he doesn't control nothing, everything's outside. Like you have the closed up person and then you have the exteriorized one. Yeah.
Hey Rob, when you're trying to talk over these guys, just bring the phone to your mouth so you're louder because you're.
And he'll mute us. He'll mute us.
I don't want to talk over any of these guys, but
we're here to promote your book.
What happens is they don't know you're trying to say anything, and you're far enough back that your phone's not picking up your voice.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. I just wanted to say that Hyde, I feel like, is more rapey than the Wolfman.
Yes. No. Yes. That is. Yes. Hyde is.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Hyde
more sexual.
Yeah.
Hyde is more sexual. He is more slasher, I would think, than the Wolfman is. Yeah.
Sadistic. I mean, remember the big incident that occurs is him stomping on a little girl and beating her with a cane.
Yep.
Yeah.
In public, like that's like the thing that he's caught doing that, like kind of like.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there's more with Hyde. It's more of a calculated evil.
It's not really a. I wouldn't consider Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a horror movie as much as I would consider it a thriller.
It's a horror story. It's a horror story.
It's
about a man who turns himself into a monster. Humans can't be monsters.
It can be, but this is
humans
true.
Can't be monsters, but humans can turn into monsters.
Yep.
So it's about a man that turns himself into a monster.
You
Out
know,
of
it's
all the different, if you're like, I just want to say really quick, if you are like a Jekyll and Hyde freak, two movies that you definitely should check out. You should check out the made-for-television Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that was written by Richard Matheson, starring Jack Palance. That's the best written screen version of the story that I've ever seen.
you know,
Then there's another one that you need to check out, which is an incredible, up until recently, impossible to find art house horror movie called Dr. Jekyll and His Women.
I've always seen Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a bit like the embodiment of this the seven sins. Like he's everything. He's greed. He's jealousy. He's rage. He's violence.
Wrath.
He's rapey.
Yeah.
He's everything. Everything merged into one. He's all those sins. That's why I always say, like, it's like the borderline of, like, you're trying to be good and you don't have any inhibition.
Just start talking, but like lean into the phone so you're loud. That's all I'm saying.
All right, yeah. I was just saying, so that plays into what I was saying, which for me it's more calculated, the Hyde thing, whereas the Wolfman is it's you giving into your urges. It's the savage side. You know what I mean? It's something uncontrollable.
Right.
Whereas the Hyde thing is Hyde is more premeditated. It's the calculated evil.
Yeah,
it's about keeping things inside, bottled up, not expressing yourself, and creating a monster out of it. It's the embodiment of that thing that, if you don't keep control, you don't express yourself, you create a monster within you that eventually can take over.
Yeah.
Yes.
The overall metaphor. Yeah.
Repression breeds monsters.
Yeah.
It's psychology.
Yeah, the book had the deep metaphor of good versus evil in the human struggle. I mean, that's really what it is. And so, like, Jekyll was supposed to be, innocence, weakness, goodness, gentle, the gentleman, the
Like stepped on.
Right. Is like, like the cuck, whatever you want to, that's the book kind of plays Jekyll that way on purpose. Okay. And then it plays Hyde, right? Because it doesn't even say Hyde looks like a monster. Nobody says that in the book. It doesn't say he looks like a monster. They don't call him a monster. He doesn't turn into a monster. He is just evil. He's
also a little bit shorter, which I've always found fascinating.
Yep.
He actually shrinks.
Yeah, because what is it? Crouch.
Yeah, because he's crouched over. He's
he's literally shorter.
He walks with a cane.
But I think that the contrast that they try to make is between somebody who's totally accepted by civilized society versus somebody that's abhorrent to civilized society.
Do you know who inspired?
It's the two extreme of the human spectrum in a way.
You know who is the
They want to draw. They're trying to draw attention to They're trying to draw attention to the fact that Mr. Hyde lives inside Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
Right. So there's people in the world. You look at them, and they got a Mr. Hyde and a Dr. Jekyll in them. And that's what the story is supposed to like. Overall, big picture. That's the metaphor that's supposed to communicate to everybody. Is that everybody's got a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde in them.
And it's also very much about the double life. Right, which a lot of gentlemen in Victorian London were living, right?
Right.
And it's two things that are worth mentioning with Hyde. One of them is that Robert Louis Stevenson was using cocaine at the time.
Who wasn't, man?
The other was excellent point. The other is that the impetus for the story, I should say, the germ for the story, came from the story of a certain Deacon Brodie. Deacon Brodie was a really interesting character. He lived in Edinburgh in Scotland. He was, of course, a deacon of a local church. He built a gallows that was designed to decrease suffering, so people's necks would snap instead of them strangling slowly to death. And what he would do is he would go and, hang out in the homes of the wealthy and the privileged, the high society, the hoi polloi of Edinburgh, and by night he was a thief and a gangster, and would come with his boys and rob some of the same places he had just been hanging out and partying in. They found out about this. They busted him. They hung him on his own gallows. And then suddenly there were rumors everywhere, right? Oh, we saw Deacon Brody. Deacon Brody was like, yeah, like he was at the pier and everything. The rumors got so extreme that the constabulary were like, okay, that's it. We're gonna dig up his grave. We're gonna show you his fucking body. See, he's dead. They dug up the coffin. What did they find? Rocks.
Is this for real? This is for real?
Yes. Look him up, Deacon Brody. Yeah, and that was where Robert Louis Stevenson said he got the idea for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A guy who was an upstanding citizen, the most upstanding citizen you can imagine by day, and this criminal by night. And now, of course, you think of like modern versions. Gee, John Wayne Gacy, right? Voted Man of the Year twice in a row. Yeah. Had his picture taken with like June Carter, and of course, was a serial killer, was a fiend.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people that have that in them that are like this close to going there. You know what I mean? And it just takes one little thing to take them there. You know what I mean? Yep. There's probably a lot of people like that. I mean, there's probably people all kinds of different along degrees along the spectrum, but I mean, I bet there's a lot of people really close to that these days.
I don't doubt it.
I don't know that they're close to like actually killing kids like John Wayne Gacy, but yeah, people close to doing some pretty twisted shit. I think that when this novel or novella, as you call it, was released in the historical backdrop, the Victorian age and all of that, that's sort of like the height of the prim and proper civilized society, gentlemanly affectations and all that. Yeah. And there was such pressure from civilized society for you to comport yourself in a certain way and in a certain manner that people must have really gotten a little savage when they were in the privacy of their own existence,
Oh, when they're hanging out in the brothels and a Whitechapel and places like that.
Yeah, because you can't keep the facade forever. People are human. You can't walk around with a stiff upper lip and holding cups a certain way.
And people like that, let's face it, when they get to have anything they want, they're going to get jaded. And once they get jaded, they're going to look for something stronger and stronger and stronger to get them aroused, to get them off. Yep. And that means more and more depraved, more and more twisted.
That's the entire lesson and morality of it. It's self-control and do not bottle anything up. Just,
Absolutely.
Be yourself. Otherwise, you have split personality.
Yep, and repression breeds monsters without a doubt.
And you know what? Like, celebrity culture must be fraught with celebrity culture. Just celebrities are fraught with this sort of behavior.
Oh my God!
Where they always present a certain facade that's like of perfection. They project this image towards the world, ultra curated by publicists and everything. And then you figure out how they are in real life, and they're scumbag. They're scumbags of the highest order.
Yep.
Most of these
yep.
people.
Ezra Miller just choked some bitch out. Where was this, in Norway?
It just happened to be caught on camera. I'm sure he does.
Hail Metal Movies and Brewskis. Yeah, it's and keep in mind too, it's like these days celebrities like Johnny Depp trashes a hotel room. Oh my God. These fucking movie stars, like in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, these dudes were just like beasts. They would just would demolish bars and pubs and just there wasn't not everybody had a freaking camera back then.
If you had Johnny Depp's money,
it was a lot easier to suppress.
Exactly.
But if you had Johnny Depp's level of money, I mean, destroying a hotel room is not a big thing. I mean, you got to think back in the 80s and 90s, like rock stars, that was like their thing. They destroyed their hotel rooms left and right. You know what I mean?
Keith Moon.
So, I mean, so it's not like a new thing to destroy hotel rooms. And I mean, as long as it can be paid for, it's like, yeah, because
I mean,
hotel rooms they don't have like irreplaceable collector's items, and they're not fucking museums. They just have fucking cheap ass fucking paintings that are decorative and can be replaced.
Oh yeah. But I'm talking about like specifically guys from that era. Oliver Reed was definitely the worst offender of them all. Once he met Keith Moon from the Who, the two of them, it was like gasoline on fire. Michael Caine, I know, partied pretty hard.
Yeah, we digress at this point.
Yes, we do. We should actually be talking. Thank you, Drew. We should be talking about this absolutely wonderful book that should be doing a lot better than it is, which is Tales from the Classroom. Rob, take it away. Tell us about Tales from the Classroom.
Thank you so much, guys. Well, Tales from the Classroom is, I think but I'm telling the audience. The premise of the book is that it takes place in a world where only monsters exist, and humans are but the figments of their imaginations, basically. So they tell scary stories about us. We're the fictional, we're their monsters. So in this world, we follow Rob, who's and he's a kid in it.
Okay, your audio cut out real quick there, Rob.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just like when you're talking to your phone like that, just keep your mouth close enough to the phone because you're just losing contact with the microphone. So.
Sure. So the story, we follow Rob, who's this monster, this zombie, and he attends Romero High, which is an all-zombie high school. And there he's worshipped by every other zombie. He's like the most popular kid in school. He's the Ferris Bueller of zombies, basically. But then one day his dad gets a promotion from janitor to head janitor, and which is a big deal for zombies. And they move to the big city. And he transfers over to Cthulhu High, which is a multi-species high school where not just zombies are there, but all sorts of different monsters, wolfmen and vampires, mummies, and everything you can imagine. And Rob gets a tough time trying to adjust to this school because he very quickly discovers that zombies are firmly at the bottom of the totem pole and are treated as sort of like a substandard species among their monster peers, and that's the basic premise. And it's a very sort of fun tale about this guy going from riches to rags and rags to riches again. And I hope people enjoy it.
I have no doubt that we will, because it looks fantastic. The art's really wonderful. Do you want to tell us something about the artist?
Yeah, it's this guy named Sebastian Bronico. He's from Argentina, Buenos Aires.
Of course.
And as most artists seem to be in comics. And I was hooked up with him way back when this book was originally supposed to be published via this independent called Viper Comics, which have since dismantled, and the book actually fell apart for a little while, and then I took up the mantle again, and that's why we're here. Anyway, that's how I hooked up with him. He created most of the book's art, but then there was some stuff that needed to be finished, so I had to track him down and see if he was available and willing to finish the book, and he was, and I'm very happy that he did, and he still has it,
Awesome, fantastic. So this is like Same thing happened with me and Six Gun Gorilla. That was a project where I was like, okay, well, I guess this is never going to happen. And then Comicsgate came along at the right time.
That's funny. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
But there's some other in the promotion of this book. I got in touch with a lot of different artists, and there's several artists that were involved in crafting and creating pinups and other promotional material. And the image you're seeing, for instance, right now was actually done by Marco Maccagni of Monster MD fame. I'm sure everybody knows Monster MD.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he did a really good job in this particular image.
Well, why don't we give this video a watch?
Yeah, sure. I'd love that.
Sound, damn it! Verdammt sound!
No, it does have sound. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Let me give it a shot again.
Okay, I was just yelling at you in German for no reason.
No, it was supposed to have sound. I clicked the box on it this time.
Okay.
Let me give that a new try. A lot of things are having technical difficulties with the live streams across a lot of platforms. I've been hearing all kinds of things.
Really?
I've been experiencing all kinds of weird glitches with Facebook.
Yeah, it's the Chinese, man. It's the Chinese.
It's that coronavirus.
No, it's an election year. That's why. Got to make sure that everybody stays on narrative.
High school is a nightmare, especially if you're the new kid and a zombie.
That's Von Klaus.
I'm Rob Muerto, and this is my story. Tales from the Classroom, a fun post-mortem romp following everyone's favorite teenage zombie, me. As I struggle to adapt to my new school, find love, fight off blood-sucking bullies, and keep all my body parts intact. Back in Romero High, my previous all-zombie school, I was the most popular kid around. But after transferring to Cthulhu High, a multi-species school whose students include vampires and wolfmen and everything else that goes bump in the night, I've had to come to terms with being at the bottom of the proverbial social heap. As a zombie or a pulse-challenged individual, I have fought to get my voice heard in a world populated with monsters of all shapes, creeds, and sizes, all of whom seem to think zombies are beneath them. That's where Tales from the Classroom comes in. It's a premium quality 41-page comic featuring frightfully awesome pencils by Sebastian Barnico with inks blacker than my bile, courtesy of Juan Castro, eye-popping colors by Matthias Lombard, and letters by Lucas Gattoni. So good, it may actually spook you. Additionally, you get a story, my story, written by none other than yours truly, and a handful of pinups created by an assortment of top-tier talent, ranging from Monster MD's Marco Maccagni and Tanya Wicker, Invisible's John Roush, and the mysterious Wonder Boy talent known only as Tad Lambert. So, what are you waiting for, human? Can you help a zombie out? Thanks so much, mortals. You know what? You guys are all right. I heard bad things, but I think you're okay.
Oh, fantastic. Hail Von Klaus.
Yeah, Von Klaus. Yeah.
Did he kill that or what?
Yeah, he did. He rocked that hard.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's the second portion of the...
Wicked
Yeah.
cool bitchin'. Wicked cool bitchin'.
Yeah, it's a cool little track that the Traylon, what's his name? Traylon Zalins? I'm getting his name wrong. It's a shame. Zaylen Tralis put together.
Oh, it's great.
He cut that second portion of the video. The first one was more different, and out of his heart, he did it pro bono, actually.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I love seeing people doing that, especially monster book creators standing up for other monster book creators.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I'm so pissed off I'm not doing a monster book right now. You guys are having all the fun, damn it.
Wait, you're saying your gorilla with guns isn't fun, man?
No, it is, but it doesn't have any monsters. I do have. I'm gonna join the club though.
Any monsters yet?
Yes. My next project is good.
Maybe he's related to King Kong. Maybe he's like.
Maybe he's gonna run into a chupacabra.
You never know. you never know. Down El Paso way. Yeah, I mean, do you want to also go into some of these characters? It looks like you guys have like a really interesting array. The Principal Kong, is that his name?
Yeah, there's Principal Kong. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see one of the variant covers of the book done by this artist Tad Lambert that since ghosted me because I came out as CG. But,
which cover was it? That one I just had, or is this it?
The one you just had, yeah. And you can see multiple characters there, and starting with Principal Kong in the middle, and then Joshua the Golem. You see, he has a little kippa there, and
I know, I love that. Yeah.
And the little hair,
the
Orthodox, the
Orthodox. That's great.
And then you get Eddie the Wolfman crouching down. But people confuse him for a lion, but he's a wolfman, believe it or not.
Right.
And Rob in the middle, and then you got Harry the Swamper, and Eliza, who's a vampire, but a certain species of vampire. That's why she's different from the one standing next to her, named Drake. Mm-hmm. So Drake is a Nosferatu, and Eliza is a Strigoi, and they're dating.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Drake is sort of like the most popular. He's what Rob used to be in Romero High. He's Drake is in Cthulhu, and he's the most popular kid, and he has an intense distaste for zombies. So, as you can imagine, like Rob lands on his radar, and he chooses to make his existence miserable.
How should I phrase this? Were the John Hughes movies any influence on you when it came to writing this? Because of course, being that it's set in a high school, there's so many different ways you can go. I'm just wondering, was there a John Hughes thing?
That's a good question. But what can you tell me what John Hughes did?
I'm sorry. Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink. He did all those high school movies with Molly Ringwald.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I watched them, but it's I'm sure it's like an
not an influence.
Yeah, okay. Not an influence, but it probably something that's in the back of my mind, but not something that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I see. The reason why I was stuttering and staring there was because I wanted to ask you that question like in a way that wasn't offensive, because I hate John.
No, it's not offensive. No, dude, it's not offensive at all. But
okay.
The truth of the matter is that there's only so many ways you can make the high school.
Right.
There's certain archetypes in the high school story as well. That you can't escape.
Yep.
So there's going to be similarities between all of them. And,
so your influence was Saved by the Bell, is what you're saying.
There you go, Drew. To the rescue. To the rescue.
But I mentioned Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller is probably an influence because
John Hughes.
just
Yeah,
the
Ferris Bueller
concept
was a John Hughes movie. Yes,
was that John Hughes?
yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Okay, all right. I always
It's not
thought that
as
was
John
one of the
Hughes, he was.
strangest. It was one of the strangest pieces of miscasting of all time, man. Matthew Broderick is the cool kid,
I know.
and the other one that's actually that looks like vaguely cool is the nerd outcast.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm talking about? His best
Yeah.
friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
I don't know what you were trying to do
The,
there,
rich,
but
the kid with a rich dad, and they borrow his Ferrari, and they try to wind up the speedometer by going backward. And it doesn't work.
Because they racked 300 miles onto it. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that one? They didn't. It was when they left it at the parking and the drive.
Right. The parking people did. Right. Yeah. That's just wild. That's a hell of a joyride.
Yep.
There's a really good series that's on Netflix right now. I'm almost afraid to recommend it because a lot of people are accusing it of being furry bait, but it's not. It's called Beastars. It's about herbivores and carnivores going to a high school together, and there's tension between the herbivores and the carnivores. Because sometimes the carnivores will attack and kill and devour the herbivores. In incidents in like dark alleys and that sort of a thing. And there's one of the students that gets killed in the beginning.
Another one, but one of my favorite of John Hughes, because I did like The Breakfast Club. It was he's the guy behind Weird Science, Rob.
Yeah, that's right.
Weird Science.
All right. Sorry, guys. Pepper Potts is scrolling the screen. Here.
Aw.
Yeah.
We love
For
Pepper Potts.
The audience, if they're curious, seriously,
Hail
I'm
Pepper
not
Potts.
even kidding.
Aw. Look at
And
that.
there goes the screen.
Yeah, one of the funniest things I've seen sold is a dummy keyboard that's just made out of silicone that you put as like what's the term I'm looking for? It's like a diversion. It's
Decoy.
you want a decoy keyboard because the cat's gonna crash out on your keyboard, so you give them the decoy keyboard, which is also a little more cozy.
So why don't you tell us about the perks here, Rob?
the perks are. Hold on. So the featured perk. Should we start with the featured one? No, probably not.
That's where I'm
We should
sitting.
start-
Yeah, the feature one's first.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, but I don't like starting with the featured one because that's always the hottest sauce. If you know what I mean.
That's why you start with it.
So that's why I start with
It's your first punch. Yeah, it's your knockout punch.
But Drew, let the man do it his way.
Well, let's do it his
All
way.
right. All right. So
It's only
digital
my show.
premium.
Hey, you've got the mute button. You can always mute me. It's all good.
I'm gonna. There's several tiers of the digital edition of the book, but we're all classical enthusiasts of comic books. So I'm going to skip to the physical copies, and the starting tier is the standard physical copy, which you get the book, just the base book, plus 4 high-res pinups printed with an example of what I'm talking about, because they look good. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Sort
Can you
of.
see that?
It's got a glare on it, but yeah.
Shiny, but
Yeah, it's very shiny because it's printed on glossy paper. It doesn't, and also the photo is reflecting off of it. But you get these are quite big. You can sort of, if you want, put them up on the wall or whatever, frame them. I think they look great. So you get 4 of these plus the book with the standard physical copy, and then you get there's the double whammy, which is the second tier of the physical editions. And you get what I just mentioned, plus a variant Marco McCagney cover. which is the one that was that we went over before.
Very
And so that's 2 physical copies for a very decent price. One featuring a variant cover that's quite cool, and then the triple threat, which is where the money's at. I think this is the big killer app to get, where you get 4 high-res pinups, you get 3 copies of the book, one featuring that variant Marco McCagney cover that I just mentioned, another one by Tad Lambert, which is the one with all the characters that we went over. I have a copy of it here, actually. You see that? Also quite glossy. Oops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Colors really pop.
Yeah, for sure. But this is going to be so this is going to be printed digitally, right?
Okay.
The variant covers, but the actual base book is going to be printed offset, which has better quality paper, and it's going to have a spiffy cover with spot gloss, UV spot gloss lettering. This is getting a little technical, but
Okay.
it's going to look extra spiffy. Beyond that, you're going to get with this with the triple threat, you're going to get a part 2 sketch, character sketch, like of characters that are going to feature in the second part of the book. Not in the second part of the book, in part 2 of Tales from the Classroom, which will be the next book. And one of them is Coach Frank, which I don't know if we've discussed him before, Brian.
No.
But it's a character I'm really excited about.
And the Frankenstein's monster as like the
as a PE coach.
Yeah, the PE coach.
That sounds great. You know me, I love me some Frankenstein.
And then, of course, you have the chemistry teacher, Professor Hyde, which
Nice.
which I'm also very excited about.
Wonderful.
And then you get extra things like there's a 2-page short story of Kane Thulu, who's the founder of Cthulhu High School.
Uh-huh.
And you get a glimpse into him in his youth, and this is going to be part of like a broader story that's going to unfold throughout the different installments of Tales from the Classroom. But you get the first part of that here, and you get some things I don't want to reveal. Actually, I want there to be some measure of surprise for the people that get the books.
Naturally. Yep.
Yeah. But the triple threat is just is excellent bang for buck. I think for €30, I don't know how much that is in dollars, but you get 3 books and all sorts of bells and whistles.
It says $33 currently, so that it'll change when
it'll change when the economy blows up.
Right.
And the dollar's worth less than dirt. No. Forget about that. Let's. Everything's going to turn out fine.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have no doubt. By the way, what is the comic book scene like in Portugal?
It's very mild. It's not like it's not like a popular hobby, I would say. But there's a few comic book shops that are sort of cool. There was one called Mongor Head, which was really special. Sometimes you get comic book stores that really speak to you and have a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And this comic book store called Mongor Head, I would say, was unique. The guy that ran it was like a Hell's Angel type.
Nice.
Super tatted up, like super huge. Would chase people out of his store if you didn't like the look of him. And yeah.
Okay, so like the comic book guy in The Simpsons. Got it.
Basically, yeah. But like a hard as nails version.
Yeah.
But a hard as nails version,
Awesome. Well, right on. So
just to expand on that, there's it used to be totally unthinkable to see a Portuguese artist in working for a Marvel or a DC, and nowadays there's a few actually.
That's
And there's
fantastic.
and quite talented ones as well. So I'm happy to see that.
No, it's always exciting to see people from different countries that representing, in any medium, whether it's horror films or comic books. It's always cool because you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is somebody that's from another part of the world. Like their food, maybe it's going to have a different flavor.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure. I think that's part of, we're all against the SJW encroachment that happened I wouldn't even say encroachment. It's like total hostile takeover at this
Absolutely.
point. But that happened in the comic book industry. But there is, with everything that's bad, there's a good in there somewhere. And I think it allowed for certain voices to be heard that may have otherwise have not been heard, and like talents from India and that maybe wouldn't have gotten their chance simply because there's such an overabundance of talent in America already to begin with,
I wouldn't say that there's an overabundance of talent in America. To be perfectly honest, now.
Yeah. But I was just reading this book, for instance, by Vault, called The Savage Shores. I don't know if you've had the chance to read it.
Nope.
But it's an absolute. I put it up there with anything that Moore has ever done. Alan Moore,
Nice.
And it's like this Indian guy named Ram, either Ram V or Ram 5. I don't know what the V stands for. I think Ram V.
Okay.
But
What's
he's
it called?
incredible. It's called The Savage Shores.
Yep. He just dropped out.
Oh shit.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
It says his device is not connected, so his internet connection must have dropped.
I'm not being overly annoying tonight, am I?
Oh no.
Not more than usual. I'm just trying.
Hey man, I never know because sometimes I could be in a funky mood or something like that. You never know. I just
I'm a little irritated at Facebook because I couldn't share it the video. So we're streaming on Facebook, for people who can just find it. I'm a little irritated by that.
Gotcha.
But that's not your fault.
Okay. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. You know what I did? I tried to flip the camera because it's an option over here. And as soon as I did that, I dropped out. Dude, talk about like technical difficulties.
It's all good though. We're casual here. So your book has been fulfilled, or at least I should say the campaign has
completed.
Yes,
funded
and currently in demand.
That's the word.
It's funded.
It's not been fulfilled yet. It's been. I just ordered the final print run, and it's like 5 business days for it to be ready, basically to be fulfilled. I'm actually outsourcing the fulfillment. I can't do it myself. So the printing company that I'm using, called Mixum, we're very who are excellent. They're just excellent. Their printing quality is fantastic, and they're very open to speak to you and everything. So I highly recommend.
Important.
They have their own fulfillment service.
Hail George.
They have a fulfillment center.
They have a fulfillment service that I'm going to use. So
these aren't the same people that fulfilled Stealing Solo, I hope.
No. Mixem is the one that Vinny and a lot of CG are using to print their comics.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything about their fulfillment yet.
No,
No. This is like a brand new thing. It's like a week ago they announced it. So it's just a casual. It was like a happy happenstance.
So, dude, that's going to save you on the shipping, isn't it?
Yeah. It's gonna hurt me on the shipping for sure, but this whole project is hurting me financially. But the idea is to like I told you before, Brian. I'm not. I was expecting to sort of like lose some money with this, and the idea is to buy some goodwill from the customers and the people that do buy the book, and prove that I can produce a high quality product and fulfill and get it into people's hands.
Right.
And I think part of the crowdfunding scene is that you build a rep, and you slowly, every project it becomes more and more successful, and then hopefully sometime in the interim, maybe an Ethan Van Sciver of the world, one of the big cats in CG and in the crowdfunding space, will help boost my numbers. But who knows?
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to. I'm going to do it a second book for sure. If the second book is a dud and doesn't do as well as I expected to, which would be at least double this book's numbers, then I'll wrap it up. But I'm doing at least you're going to get a part 2.
Well, did you over order? I mean, because here's what you're probably going to experience as soon as people start posting, on Twitter and stuff that they got their book. They're gonna want more. They're gonna want one then. You know what I mean? That's how mine went. I think
I over ordered, yeah, for sure. I over ordered because I expect to maybe do some maybe go and actually go to one of these trade shows or something and
oh shit,
We lost you. Realign your phone, please, brother.
Yeah, he might be covering the speakers with the microphone with his hand. So.
No, absolutely not, man.
You're not, because you keep cutting out.
No, there's a distance limit where the mic sometimes turn off, and you can control it in the settings.
I'll go like this.
That works when you get close like that. It sounds real clear.
Check out my cavities.
We just want to make sure that that your message gets through, and that
you can get a zombie style close up.
Yep. I mean, look, this looks like a fantastic book. I can't wait to read it. I know other monster fans can't wait to read it. I also don't think this is something where you have to be a horror fan or a monster fan in order to dig it. This just looks like what age would you say that this is appropriate for?
I would say, I hate saying it, but it's true, young adult, I would say.
Okay. That's fine. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that.
No, it's just that there's a lot of associations with Twilight and things of the sort, and which I'm not too keen on. But I would say that's the age bracket. I would say like 13 to 18.
Well, you could say teenage boy, and that'll turn off the whole Twilight side.
Okay, good. So teenage
Right.
For a teenage boy, for a strapping young teenage boy.
So PJ-13, got it.
And any genre is only as good as its best artist, right? That doesn't mean I've never been crazy about spy novels, but
I love spy novels.
I'm not into them, but I'm like most people. I don't so much read genres as I read authors, right? So someone like Jean Le Carré, for instance, big fan of him. Big fan of Trevanian, that sort of a thing. So, just because there have been young adult books that, like Twilight, doesn't mean that somebody can't do something that's young adult that kicks ass.
Yeah, this would, just think of it as a car. There's plenty of cartoons that I can watch now that I really enjoy. Actually, now that I'm a father and I have a son growing up, I've been acclimating myself to the process of watching cartoons all over again. And I'm becoming a fan of a few, to be honest.
I'm sorry, but I still watch anime regularly. So,
well, yeah, but anime's got more of a hard edge to it. But this is like a cartoon that you can enjoy. It's for the whole. It covers the whole gamut, man. You can be an adult and really enjoy it, I think.
As an adult, I always feel good children's entertainment should work on an adult level. If it's just entertaining the kids, that means it's probably not made that well. And if it's just entertaining the adults, it probably means it's not made that well.
Right.
I was growing up like in the 70s. I was offended by a lot of the stuff that was on TV because I had the feeling that the people who made it had this attitude like, well, this is just for kids. It doesn't need to be good.
Yeah,
what?
that's what they did to Bugs Bunny at the very, very, very end when they did the remakes and all the Looney Tune remake shit.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like you have a responsibility to, if anything, make it, if it's for kids, you have a responsibility to be honest, and you have a responsibility to be sincere. You have a responsibility to make it even better, or at least as well as you can as well as you can fucking make it.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, truthfully, I mean, you say make it for kids. It's not 100% for kids, but if they're trying to, make it for purpose, they're thinking, kids are watching it. So that's where their heads are on that. You know what I mean? Because on television now, it's not like back in the day when cartoons were made to start off a movie. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
even when I was a child, they still had Pink Panther cartoons and and Jabberjaw and shit like that. You know what I mean? Before the movie and in between the movies. Okay, those were still designed for not just kids but adults. Like there were those like hidden adult jokes. You know what I mean? That kids wouldn't even like. They were so well written into the thing that kids wouldn't even realize that there was a joke there.
Right.
It would just go right past them like it didn't even happen.
Oh, like
That
the
is,
60s Batman series.
you know what I mean? And it's like that is good writing.
It
Kids
is.
kids if they did that today, you know what I mean, it would still go over kids' heads. You know what I mean? They wouldn't pick up on it until they were like 13 or 14, like when we did.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
I'm seeing a lot of that with there's this cartoon called Sonic Boom, which is surprisingly good and witty. It's based on the Sonic the video game character.
Mhm.
And Guillermo del Toro actually produced this really like slick cartoon show called Troll Hunters. I don't know if you've seen
kidding.
that.
No,
Yeah,
I haven't.
But it's like top quality entertainment, man.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great. I mean, I remember like it was about 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years ago, like children's cartoons started getting really good. Stuff like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I remember really enjoying that,
Mhm.
because it was very much about imagination, for one thing.
Mhm.
What I'm not crazy about are like a lot of the Pixar style movies, not the Pixar movies themselves, but the ones that are in that style, where they're like, okay, well, this is for the kids, but we're going to make it easy for the adults to sit through by throwing in a couple of pop culture references.
Yeah, that's usually DreamWorks. That's usually DreamWorks that do that.
Oh, can't stand
And
it.
I think, and actually, it used to be the Pixar would sort of stand out for being having a little bit more quality, but I feel like they've dipped a lot.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah. Well, see, and the difference is now is those parents are taking those children to the movies. They're taking their children to the movies. They usually want to keep their children innocent. You know what I mean? That's kind of like most parents want to keep their children innocent. Brian has this look on his face like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I come from.
Look. I come from a planet called Earth. Okay, and on this planet, I live with other citizens on this planet, and I hear a lot of what they say because it's what I do is I study people. Yeah, jerk yourself off there, Brian. All right,
Yeah, you're not the only one.
you know what? Look,
I'll bust in your balls too.
listen.
I'm going to mute myself.
Look,
But I do get a lot of shit from my wife when I'm showing my kid who's like a 3-year-old like Superman versus Hulk and stuff, and he's into it. But it is like it's pretty aggressive, you know.
I know a lot of single mothers, and I know the way that they are about their daughters, and I know the way they are about their sons, and I know and it is a very, very, very major thing that average normies try to keep their kids innocent as long as they possibly can. And that's not a bullshit thing. That's a real fucking thing. All right.
Yeah.
I understand that.
And so when they take their kids to a fucking movie,
dude, it's not just a single mother. I'm a single dad, and I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when they take their kids to a movie, they're concerned about, like, even my father, when we took me to Saturday Night Fever, freaked out because there's like that stripper part, and he's like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? It's not an abnormal thing, and so it's like when parents especially take their kids to a cartoon that's supposed to be in their mind for children, right? And then there's an adult style joke in there, right? And I mean, like the kind that we used to get in like Popeye, or in Bugs Bunny, You know, Bugs Bunny was hardcore with that stuff. You
Oh,
know,
Batman, the Batman series. Holy shit! It was
Yeah.
downright filthy.
you know what I mean. So you know, so like, but that stuff was designed to also play, you know, for adults when they're watching movies in the theaters, in drive-ins, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't designed to just play for kids. But the thing is like now stuff is designed to just play for kids. So when parents go to the theater with their kids and they catch these adult style jokes in there with something for kids, they have a different presentation to their mind because it's the whole thing. It's not some
Right.
little like pre thing with an adult movie. It's the whole thing. You know what I mean?
I would bring up The Incredibles for this. The Incredibles was for kids. The kids that were watching it got the kid jokes, and the parents got the parent jokes. It was nothing
Yeah,
sexual. It was nothing
Yeah,
else than just like parent jokes and kid
no, but
jokes.
there was a lot of adult themes in that movie, and
Yeah, there were.
Yeah.
you know, infidelity and matrimonial sort of
Yeah.
Well, that's Brad Bird.
dire straits.
Yeah.
Brad Bird's a friggin' genius. You know, the Iron
I think
Giant.
that movie.
my
I think
goodness.
that movie's the greatest.
I wouldn't call
That's
those
the
adult
greatest
themes.
Fantastic Four movie.
I wouldn't
That's
call
the
those.
greatest.
Yep.
I wouldn't call those adult themes as much as modern family dynamics.
Right. Like if you're going to do a Fantastic Four movie, I mean,
That's what I was saying, man. I think that's The Incredibles is as great as a Fantastic Four movie is ever going to get.
I
Is The
agree.
Incredibles.
I agree. And I'm hoping that, you know, that when Marvel does their Fantastic Four movie, when Marvel Studios does their Fantastic Four movie, that they make it like a Disney movie, you know, like a proper Disney movie, and that they make, because I mean, can you think of like a comic book hero franchise that like lends itself to being like a family film more than the Fantastic Four? You know,
The Fantastic Four should
Marvel's
totally
first
be it.
family.
Yeah. No, it really should have been a family film from the beginning.
I agree.
The whole, I mean, because okay, the whole Mr. Fantastic and you know the Invisible Woman having to be, you know, all this relationship drama. You know what I mean? I don't remember that in the comics. You know, I remember occasionally they had a little like, you know, a word here and a word there because they were in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, later on, I think later on, when obviously this thing has been around for so long that writers had to approach that and tackle it. But I think
I would like to remind you, Namor, and that's it.
Ooh, yeah, man.
Okay? I'm
Because
sorry,
remember,
but Namor.
Sue was like hot to trot for Namor. She wanted him
that's right.
bad.
That's right. That's right, man. Yeah, good call, man.
And Namor, of course, gallantly stepped aside.
Yep.
But I will say this: that the Fantastic Four as a concept is very tough to swallow. Live action. You know what I mean? It's just even visually, it's very tough to, you know, it's the guy made of rock, and then the guy who's a nerd and is like a Plastic Man, basically.
I thought the special effects in the very first, not the Roger Corman produced one that was never released, and I have a lot of problems with the first Fantastic, well, with both of the Fantastic, well, I haven't seen Fan Four Stick. I hear that that's just an abortion, but the two ones that they made, which were intended like for a younger audience, I had a lot of problems with those movies, especially what they did with Doctor Doom. But Michael Chiklis in that costume, I thought that was fine. I thought that was like
Chiklis was perfect casting as well.
Yeah,
as the thing.
It was the Ting. The Yancey Street King.
Yeah, I think actually, like now that you mentioned it, the biggest issue I had with that was Sue Storm and who was the girl? The big Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
With a bad. What do they do? They dyed her hair and stuff.
Yeah.
The bad hair dye. Yeah.
Yeah, bad casting.
Yeah, but this to say that. For me, it just blows my mind that Disney bought Pixar, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't yet made a proper. Why don't they like make Marvel movies? Just churn them out like 3 times a year, but like animated, like CGI animated.
They're probably worrying about flooding the market, which is already, let's face it, a little bit flooded. I think they're worried about the superhero bubble bursting. What I don't understand is why they don't lease their characters out to other countries, right? Like, I would love to see a Hong Kong style Batman movie. That would kick ass, right?
So, Rob, you got a new backer, by the way. I've been wanting to tell you, but since you're at 146 right now.
Church.
Thank you, man. Thanks, man.
Seriously,
really
people. Seriously, people, back this book. It looks absolutely wonderful. Rob's a really interesting up and coming creator. He's somebody that is here not just to play, but to stay. And this is his premier venture. Let's get behind it, and and see where he goes from here. Because I personally can't wait.
It sounds like a really interesting story. I love the premise. It's kind of it's kind of. I mean, the high school sounds perfect for what he's doing here. Pulling in all the monsters and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of like. I mean, it's like okay, so like my ex used to have. She has daughters, and one of those, the older of the two daughters, watched Monster High. So I actually was subjected to that cartoon quite severely, and this looks like it would kick its ass in a heartbeat. You know what I mean?
Listen to me. I thank you. I appreciate those words, and I get triggered massively every time I even hear Monster High, because guess what the original title of this book was? Monster High. This was originally a script that I was shopping around LA called Monster High, and after like 3 months of doing that, Mattel announced Monster High. Yeah.
Parallel development, man. It happens.
That type of shit happens.
It does.
Yeah. And for a while, for a long time, I thought that they.
That's why before you shop something around Hollywood, you have to make sure that you register it so that doesn't happen to you.
I did.
It's only for $50 to register the name and everything.
They
could have done a Monster High title without.
Okay, they did that, but they went over you and trademarked it, right?
No, I totally. It was totally registered, but then I advised myself, should I like try to sue these guys, or he was like, absolutely not. You're gonna get cremated. But then I realized that this had been, who I'd love to speak to is Dan Fraga, because Dan Fraga was involved with Monster High. Apparently, I just learned of this.
Really?
Recently. Yeah. So he was one of the guys that was like curating the whole concept.
Oh shit!
And, I just learned about this recently. And I'd love
I hope the first concept, not the second one, because holy shit, they changed it and it looks like shit now.
No, it was terrible. I think here's what I think the rationale was. This was like right off of Twilight, right? And Twilight was a big deal.
Yep.
And they were like, huge. I guess girls like monsters. Why don't we make our cash cow is Barbie? Why don't we aim this at little tweens? And so they did.
It was also they also, I mean, didn't Monster High follow up the whole Bratz dolls, and the Bratz dolls were all like, Gothic was like the real popular one and shit, and and the people realized that girls did dig monsters, and girls do like to be, they like the elements of vampirism because it's got romantic, relationship elements in it. So does.
But that's fine. But it's such a shot in the foot because you're constricting yourself to one portion of the audience when you could have a concept that's fairly universal, like a Harry Potter. You know what I mean?
Right. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when those came out.
We're talking about low-hanging fruit designed for a specific audience on purpose to market to them. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, they made a fucking fortune,
Yeah, crazy. I remember when those came out.
For me alone, I probably spent a fucking at least $500-$600 on stupid Monster High shit for fucking that little girl.
We're sorry, Drew. We're sorry. But
every time I went by like a store, every time I went by a store and saw Monster High, it would just it would depress the hell out of me, man. But here's the book now. I'm very happy that it's out there now. Finally.
Hell yeah.
10 plus years a little late, but it's here, and hopefully this grows and it can become a TV show one of these days. And
that's
my ultimate ambition.
If you ever try to pitch it as a show again, you can still call it Tales from the Classroom, or you can call it Monster High School. because then you're going with a different name, and you can,
Hey, Rob.
and then you'll collect the original audience from Monster High out of curiosity.
Rob, my friend Shane here, he was a big supporter in books. He wants to back your book. He just would like to know how long he has before you close it.
I think it's going to be he has at least 5 more days to do so.
Oh, hail, Adam. What's up, brother?
No, Adam
Hail,
Post.
Adam Post.
Hello, Adam Post.
It's another monster. Another monster
book. I'm gonna do that monster thing, man. I'm gonna do that that monster stream one of these days. Get all the monster book creators together to talk monsters and to pimp your books. It's gonna happen eventually.
The thing is there's too many now. You couldn't get them all into one stream.
Right. Well, I got
Probably
break them into pieces.
Yeah, break it. Do like a contest, and then keep going up the ladder. And then it's Adam Post versus,
that's actually a good idea, especially since we're talking about like monster matches.
You know what? Wait. That's something we should do. We should do a standoff every once in a while with the trivia. We could just like have monster trivia. Bring people on that have monster books with the same type of characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you know what I mean? And then start hitting them with fucking monster trivia. And I think that's a brilliant idea. We need to do that. I vote we do that.
True.
Yeah, I better brush up on my Universal Monsters films.
Yeah.
That's all good. Drew, is there any chance you could play the trailer for Mad Monster Party? Because not nearly enough people know about this movie. And
I was actually going to do House of Dracula next, but you guys got like way off topic, and I was just like listening.
It always happens. It always happens.
You said Mad Monster Party? I'll jump to that one.
Mad Monster Party. Yeah, which was a feature film by Rankin Bass, the people that made the Christmas specials. This is a feature, and it was based on designs by Jack Davis from Mad Magazine and written by the guy who wrote for Mad Magazine a lot of the spoofs and satires and stuff. Check this out.
So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I was just looking at that. That was looking pretty interesting.
This was the inspiration for Nightmare Before Christmas.
Now these are the ones that were like the Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, same artists that were put this together, right?
But with a bigger budget.
Yeah.
And feature length.
We can't watch it too long, so you're gonna have to talk a little bit. You know how that goes. Oh, look,
Boris.
I love talking. That's awesome.
Yep. There's the Count filing his teeth. There's the monster.
That's fantastic.
There's the Wolfman.
I like the artwork on the mannequin or whatever they're using there. Whatever you call the doll.
The puppets.
The puppets.
Yeah. My favorite is the Invisible Man, though. Check out the Invisible Man.
Wait, you're gonna see him?
Oh yeah.
Oh, is he like wrapped in like toilet paper?
There's Quasimodo. There's the Mummy. There's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There he is. Check him out.
That's funny.
Yeah. So he's represented by a smoking jacket, sunglasses, and
Looks like Phyllis Diller.
That's Phyllis Diller as the monster's bride.
That's funny, and they make it look like her. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's her doing the voice, of course.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I have it muted so that because we're talking, but
right.
I'm trying not to trigger.
To the Mummy. That's a good song.
But this was this was a show or a movie?
This is a feature film.
Wow.
This was released at the height of the return of monster culture, 1967, right? I caught the very tail end of this. The Universal monster movies were very popular. They were being shown at double bills in movie theaters. There was the Shock TV package, which was a group of 28, I think it was, Universal monster movies that were syndicated across the country. You had monster movie hosts were very popular at the time. People like Vampira and Zachary, and there were the Aurora monster model kits. I caught the very tail end of this. Famous Monsters of Filmland, of course. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was. Oh, the Munsters, Adams Family. Yeah, it was like a big thing. And my brother, I had an older brother who was into it, so I got a lot of his hand me downs.
Hmm.
I just got a message from YouTube. I thought it was going to be saying that we somehow did a copyright strike already, and I was like, "Oh, but no, it's
No,
saying it's telling me that Ethan went live instead."
Yeah, I saw that as well. I guess we're reduced to one viewer now.
F you, Ethan. God damn it, he's stealing our audience. I hate
But
you.
it's, speaking of the Adams Family, I went to watch the latest cartoon that they put out a movie. It was one of the worst movies
Yeah.
I've seen. It was terrible.
In Ethan's defense,
It looks so bad.
he didn't really try to go over us because
No, I know. He's like
it-
barely even knows we exist.
well, no, it's 7:50. It's almost 7:15 my time, which means that we've been going for almost the 2 hour point.
Right,
So
right.
we
No,
just
it's okay.
started a little late.
I
so-
know. I'm just busting balls. That's what I do.
I'm just defending Ethan.
Yeah, of course. That's all good. We love him.
Oh,
yeah, there's a creature from the
traditional
Black
pie
Lagoon.
fight. The traditional pie fight. That's great.
And you actually kind of get to see the shape of the Invisible Man's face. Did you see the fez there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Highly, highly recommend it. If you are a monster movie fiend, you must own this on DVD and Blu-ray.
Dude, so this is totally the Corpse Bride and all that is totally a ripoff.
Absolutely.
Not a ripoff, but
Inspired by. Yeah.
heavily inspired by this.
Yeah, but it's better. It's better than the Tim Burton produced movies.
So this is was this sort of like a pioneer of this type of is this claymation?
It's stop motion. Yeah.
It's stop motion. Okay.
Yeah, it's stop motion. They make little dolls and move them one step at a time. Yeah. It's still the same thing they do nowadays when they do stop motion. It's just that nowadays they have, more expensive dolls and they throw in some CGI on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, like the Henry Selick movies and the Aardman animation, So it's great that it's an art form that is still alive, because I would have thought that it would be completely dead by now. But thank God it's not, because I think there's always been something very special and very charming about stop motion. The Box Trolls, that's a really good stop motion movie. I would recommend that if you have kids.
It's crazy that stop motion seems to be more in vogue or utilized than straight up.
Fuck, do you know how long it takes to make 2 hours of stop motion?
Yeah, man. That's the thing. Stop motion is very expensive because it's very time consuming.
Yeah,
that's why. I mean, there's that. It's but it's still they're still using it, and then stuff like physical special effects and makeup and like creature design seems to have gone out the window since CGI.
Oh, it's making a comeback though. It's made a big comeback since The Walking Dead, and you're seeing more practical effects these days. I actually watched a movie last night that melded practical effects with digital effects virtually flawlessly, virtually seamlessly. Called it's called I Am a Hero. It's like a Japanese Shaun of the Dead. It's a zombie about a Japanese kid that manages to do. Yeah,
that's what I actually call
that is a thing.
Is a zombie.
There you go.
Yeah,
I Am a Hero. Check it out. It's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, you remember Where the Wild Things Are? That movie that came out.
The live action one? I never saw it.
With James Gandolfini and everything. I thought they did a really good job of melding the two. Actually,
it looked cool.
It was good. It was done by Spike Jonze.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I don't know why, but for some reason I just haven't seen it.
I actually like the versions of the monsters they use in Monster Squad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that they actually captured the essence of each one of them perfectly.
I think so too. I think so too. And of course, this is better than the Goonies.
I would disagree with that.
Of course you would.
But I'm a hardcore Goonies fan.
Actually, I have a confession to make. I've never seen the Goonies.
Yeah, so then stop talking shit
No
on the
way.
Goonies. You've seen it.
But I like talking shit. Damn it! What can I say? I got a big mouth and I like to use it. I like to.
Why
I like to run it.
would you make the very specific reference to the Goonies if you haven't
Because I'm
watched
being
it?
a dick. Because I'm being a
Because he knows
dick,
I'm a
that's
fan
why.
of the Goonies. He's trying to fucking troll me.
Okay.
He's trolling me.
I'm being a dickhole, okay?
Yeah, this movie is got like a bunch of famous child actors in it, and I mean obviously it's a kids movie, so no one be surprised. It's not really a horror. It's more of a a family movie.
The opening's pretty scary, though. I think when Van Helsing shows up to fight Dracula, I think that's a scene that's pretty horrific.
Yeah, except for kids that have been like, once you've been like opened to that kind of Halloween mood for years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
That's
think
one of the,
kids in the 80s were pretty jaded.
yeah, you know what I mean? It especially in the 80s, because
The Spielberg movies.
yeah, and cable came out, you know what I mean? Cable
Mhm.
TV came out in 81, man. That's when everybody in my neighborhood had it, so it's like, we were watching everything then. I mean, Barbarella went from an X-rated movie to PG when it went cable.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean?
That's true.
Hmm.
And the cult following that this has,
And then
has grown and grown
MTV
and grown.
culture, dude. Remember MTV culture? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the 80s all through and through was MTV
It
culture,
was.
man.
It
With
was.
the 80s and MTV were like brother and sister hand in hand merged forever. And if it's like if you didn't live in the 80s, you
Yeah.
have to explain MTV to somebody, because nowadays they think of MTV as fucking reality television and game shows and stupid shit like that.
Mhm.
I
You know
think
what I mean?
obviously I haven't lived every single era, but I think the 80s are probably the goat era for me.
It started by being music videos, then it grew up to being like with animation with Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy. That's where they're from.
Well, that
Yep.
was almost the 90s, the animation addition. That was
Yeah.
that was the
80s,
90s.
yeah. The 80s
Yeah.
was the music. They had video clips, then they started producing their own video clips with
Mhm.
the
It started
and
with
then-
those party shows. It started going off with those party shows, and then so it was like these big dance party shows, and those were getting more attention than their music countdowns, where they thought that was which was the previous most popular thing.
I used to love to watch those and turn the sound down and like put on like Sisters of Mercy or Big Black or something like that, and just like watch these like kids like dancing to like evil music.
I used to love Metal Shop, man. I would stay up to midnight, fucking to watch Metal Shop like all the time, man.
I count myself lucky that my youth was mainly like half the 80s and half the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too, man. That's like you're just like me. I think, but I think, but if
We're a mix of X and we're a mix of Y.
You see, my youth was half 70s and half 80s, mostly 80s, because when the 90s came, I was technically an adult in 91, so technically I graduated high school.
Shane Mess.
If I had to pick between 80s and 90s, I'd pick 80s, because 90s for me were really just the early 90s. Once you got into 95 and onwards, I'm not too fond of what the cultural output,
The 90s
Definitely.
were the extreme years.
Yeah, the 90s started out, with the trail, the end of the 80s crossover, like bands like Skid Row and fucking, what was that? I'm not gonna get into the music, that kind of stuff, but the whole era was yeah. Well, there was. It was yeah, but those were all through the 80s too. I mean, you had those kind of bands through the 80s, but then you even had them in the 70s. Like you had, Black Sabbath, that was in the 70s. Come on, they were a hair band too. You know what I mean?
Right,
They were Hairspray. So that stuff isn't like new.
Twisted Sisters.
Yeah, exactly. Twisted Sisters. That's like 80s though. But the 90s, they were where you started your transition from the regular era of buying CDs, the era of still doing everything normal, you know what I mean? And then the 90s started transitioning us to this new century with the internet and everything that goes with it, you know what I mean? And now we are a cell phone driven computer in our pocket, internet-based society, and it took a decade to make it official. You know what I mean? But it had happened. Actually, it took a little bit longer than a decade, but it took like roughly about 2005 is when it was official, when we were all the way there as far as cell phones. You know what I mean? And then when the iPhone came out, that basically was the transition kicker, the one thing that said, okay, we're never going back, because
without a doubt.
well, if you can
Yeah,
watch,
it's crazy, man. It's like we still don't know. We don't fully understand what the effects of the internet are on people, but it's certainly become a much less personable society. There's less, you know, just less of an emotive element.
Well,
Well,
people
it's
feel
one thing.
lonelier than ever before, which is interesting because we have, if anything, greater access to each other than ever before.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's not why people feel lonely. It's not about access. They feel lonely because they see other people, having fake fun. They're having
That's what I was gonna say.
getting
Yeah.
fake love.
Their fake lives. Yeah.
Yeah, they're seeing people out there fucking getting worshipped and admired by masses, and they fucking can't even get love from their dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And Shane Mass is right. Wolfman does have nards.
That's not a problem you have with pepper pots.
Definitely not.
no.
Pepper
Although
Potts is awesome.
I do have some cats that don't love me.
Shane Mass says that Simon, he's going to troll your DM later with his Monster Squad signatures from Horror Hound.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, this is a movie that's gotten so much love in the last 5-10 years or so.
This is right here is my favorite scene from the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
gonna turn the sound on.
pretty cute.
Monster in my closet.
Ooh, look at that big, scary monster.
That's great. That's great. I'm gonna watch the movie now just because of that.
Duncan
that
Rieger, very well cast as Count Dracula.
Yes, but I mean that was my favorite scene in the whole fucking movie, though. That when he's all like making fun, there actually is a monster, and he's like,
No, but it is creepy, by the way.
Yeah.
It is.
No, the movie is creepy. Yes, you know what I mean. But it's not like gory, and it's not horrific. It's, you know what I mean. Although they do take a little bit of thriller and action and suspense and all those elements, and they do make a decent movie. I would say that it is a mild horror movie, if you want to classify it as a horror movie. I would say that it could be classified. I would say it's more of a monster movie.
Yeah, it's not a satire. It's not a satire. You know, the monsters have a sense of genuine menace to them, especially at a certain point in the film. And I think that's because this is written by Shane Black and Fred Decker. Shane Black, of course,
wasn't the scene where they fucking
Lethal Weapon?
Didn't they kill the werewolf in this movie in a very interesting kind of way?
Well, it killed him with a silver bullet, if I remember correctly. Then
didn't they blow him to pieces with dynamite?
I think that might be that's not the mummy. The mummy gets unraveled.
Right? The mummy gets unraveled. Yes.
And but no, I don't remember. No, I think he just gets shot. And,
what do you mean unraveled? Somebody pulls at the string like a yo-yo?
The cool kid, yeah. But no, it's the cool kid shoots the Wolfman with a silver bullet. And oh,
that's right. They blow him up, but he doesn't die. That's right. They blew him up with dynamite, and he doesn't die, and he comes back, and then they shoot him with a silver bullet.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
me too. I'm wondering, is that a different movie? I'm like, and if the Wolfman just looked the same, and it was another kid's movie, or I'm like,
It's a very good design. It's a very good monster design. All the monster designs in this are terrific.
Let's look at this part right here. It's like a giant ass.
Well, that's because you just happen to freeze frame it there. That's why. But yeah, it is a good movie. And as I was saying, Shane Black, Fred Decker, these are people that had real respect for the genre, and there's no question that when they made this, they were thinking of Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
So wait a minute. So Shane Black did Lethal Weapon, and then he moved off of that to this one, or
Yeah, I know he was also one of the actors in Predator. He was one of the commandos.
yeah, the
And
guy with the glasses.
Yeah,
he wrote the screenplay to this, and I think it's directed by Fred Decker, who did Night of the Creeps, which is a great little horror movie.
yeah, he was one of the guys that I took the
See,
he used
Shane,
to say that violence and gore can be like you can push it to the limit, but if you can always find a way of making it funny.
see,
And
Shane,
not by
Shane remembers. Shane remembers.
Pepperidge Farm, remember?
Well, Shane, that's why you're here, is to straighten us out. That's another thing too, is when I'm on the show, I always try to make a point. I've got my reference books and everything. I make a point not to touch them. You know, sometimes if a name is driving me crazy, I'll Google it really quickly, or I'll hop on Internet Movie Database. But otherwise, I try to make sure that that's all me off the top of my head. That's Tom Noonan playing the monster there, by the way.
And Shane is a writer, like a horror writer, like you.
Oh, excellent! Hail, Shane. Tom Noonan probably.
Sorry, I actually got two new contributions. So
booyah!
Thanks for
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
And one of them is the triple threat was fantastic.
That's what we're all about.
This is the most profitable stream I've done in a while. Huh?
Have you been? Has Adam had you on yet?
Adam did, yeah. Adam was great,
Cool.
yeah.
Which
Cool.
Adam Post? Did you?
Adam Post, yeah.
You were on the
Yeah,
Woodcock
he's
show.
cool.
You know what?
But I hear he's desperate to have me on again.
It's Adam. Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, for
I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go for a second.
Yeah, no worries,
Yeah.
man.
No problem.
Yes.
Yeah, for one of the streams that only gets a few views sometimes, and like we get more views afterwards, than we don't usually get them all at the same time for some reason. We do end up moving books. That's a beautiful thing, and so it's definitely worth doing all this. So.
Yeah, I had an extra sell too. I'm at I'm only at 95 away from 10K now.
Sweet,
That's fantastic, man. Sweet.
only $95 away from the 10K.
Yep.
That's
Let me
awesome.
see. So how are your campaigns doing, guys?
They're doing okay.
There's been an impressive little spike right now. Like new people are coming in, backing a lot of projects, which has been interesting. Like I was gonna close it like not like 3 weeks ago.
Wait, those new backers, where the hell are they? It's like...
And I got some messages when I was on Raging Golden Eagle to wait a few days, and dude, I gained like 16 backers in 3 days.
Wow.
So people were telling me to just keep it open till I'm ready to go to print. So that's what I did, and look, I'm almost at 10K.
Yeah, but and with you.
With me,
you just cut out, Rob.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
I know that Captain Love is on the second book, right?
Yeah.
And how's it tracking? Better than
It's actually ahead of the first book. They're racing. The first book's still selling, and it's still moving. And in fact, I move. I don't know. I say I probably an average after they're not all of them the same day. I mean, sometimes there's multiple in one day, but I average probably one a day as far as that book goes right now.
Great.
Yeah, and I mean that considering it's been a live campaign, it went in demand, but I mean it's been an active campaign since October 1st. You know what I mean? It's still moving like a book a day on average now.
That's great, man. Yeah.
And then like I said, the new campaign is doing fantastic. It's over 8,500 right now, and still 23 days left on this section, and then obviously I still have 15 days in reserve. So I'm definitely hoping that I get the 10K on it at minimum. I'd like to see bigger numbers on this, but it's going to be in demand a couple of months before it fulfills. You know what I mean? Roughly a month, maybe a little bit more. So and then obviously, and then after it fulfills, it'll be open in demand another month until the Chapter 2 campaign starts. And then I'm going to try and get that cycle fast and tight. You know what I mean? it really, it really comes down to my artist, how fast that moves. So
Don't worry, brother. You'll break 10K most definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there was a really positive. It's about building the audience, man. People responded really well to the first Captain Love, so obviously the second one. I feel like you build. It's an accruing sort of deal with these crowdfunding books.
yeah. So far, it does appear to be that way. And I mean, it's the community's growing. People that you have to. I mean, in a way, the community has like evolved, because there was a time the community would just believe in whoever, there was a handful of people that would say this book yes, and if they didn't say this book yes, people didn't pay attention to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But if they said this book yes, a bunch of people would back it, and that book would do, like 20K or more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then that stopped. They don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? They do that they still do that with certain books and certain people, but they don't do that for like every good book anymore. And then anytime they say this book yes, it doesn't necessarily turn into 20K anymore either. And that's because there's been a lot of people that screwed up big time in the community. You know what I mean? They didn't deliver. They, delivered poorly or whatever happened. You know what I mean? And so now that's been kind of like starting to wear out all the way, where people are starting to like, overwhelm that stuff and having, consistent delivery, and you're seeing who's good and who's not. But a lot of people will wait around to see. They want to see you actually deliver a freaking book, and they want people to have it in their hands. They want some people to actually read the book and review it. You know what I mean? It's my theory is pretty sound, I think, when it comes to like what really sells a comic book, and it's what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's like, so just being told what you're going to get is not good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the actual product. Yeah.
Right. So like when I go to a comic book store, I don't want to open, the ones that are all like collector's items that are sealed in a bag and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You can't, you don't pull that out and look at it and see if it's good art or not, because it's going to be good art, because it's a product, that has been on the shelf for a while. It's oh, this is fucking, this is, the artist by name, or what I mean, it's fucking Jim Lee. You're like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. You know what I mean? So it's you just know. So, but the graphic novel section, they don't do that, right? They leave the books there. And then sometimes also the floppies, and they're the ones that are monthly, when they're still, fresh, they're not in a bag, when it's still that month. So you can pick it up and look through it, especially if they're new releases, and especially if it's something new. They actually expect you to pick it up, hold it, flip through it, and then just be spellbound. So you have to buy it, and that thing is the thing that we lack in our community. We can't really do that. So that's the only thing that's to my mind, the secondary thing is what other people are saying. People who have the book, who have picked it up and held it, smelled it, you flipped through it, read it, said, you know what, this is fucking badass. You need this. You know what I mean? And then that a lot of that gets around, what I mean? Because it takes more than just being aware of a campaign. You have to have endorsement.
By the way, I just wanted to mention, Antonio Bryce's brand, right? Finally shipped. And I just got to say, it is the most aromatic book.
Does it come from Mixum? Did you get it done at Mixum?
I'm not sure. It doesn't say, of course.
No, it wouldn't say. Yeah.
It wouldn't say, but,
Where do you print your
compare the smell to Captain Love? Mine, I did mine at Mixum. Compare the smell to mine.
Oh, you did as well. Oh, cool.
Let me see. I don't have it handy. I think it's
most people are using Mixum right now, Rob.
That bookshelf. It's on that.
Mixum is the most price friendly for US, and then the reason why
Canada.
Canada's not even as big as California. It's not a real place.
I'm sorry. UK as well, and you could say all you want.
I'm gonna say all I want. No, I was gonna say that the business model of Mixum starting to do fulfillment is something they told me they were planning on doing a while, because people are shipping, are getting product, and they're delivered to both sides of the ocean, and then they've had people like talk to them about that for years, not just in comic books, but in all their printing. people will have books printed. And now compare the smells.
So just about to do. Your book is really sniffable too. Very aromatic.
You should have a channel just reviewing books based on smell.
Right. That's that new car smell. You know what? Honestly, and I'm not playing favorites or anything here. I'm gonna have to declare this a tie.
Then you're definitely not playing favorites.
Exactly. That's
there's
exactly
no winner.
Favorites.
Well,
a tie. See, it's not. It's like if he got it printed at Mixum, then a tie would make sense.
So Brian is the person that you do not want as a judge.
No. Definitely not. No,
yeah, I was actually just trying to see if you compared the smell, if you got it printed at Mixum, or if it was another smell.
It's not that one smells better than the other.
No, not good or not better. Just like do they smell the same?
Strongly. No. Well, this one smells. No, they don't smell the same. But they're both very highly aromatic.
Was yours printed digitally or no?
Mine was printed. Yes, it was digital. Yes, Mixum almost. They do offset, but you got to have a large quantity for that.
A large quantity, yeah.
And you can't sniff a PDF, folks. You can't sniff a PDF.
No.
But yeah,
you can, but it smells all the same.
Yeah. There you go.
But the smell comes from the ink itself, though. Just so that
it's the ink and the glue.
Well, yeah, it's actually the glue, but also the final varnish coat is the smell. Yeah.
So the glue. Hold on, the glue is only if it's perfect bound, right?
That's
otherwise
correct.
It's stapled. Okay. Yep. And now we're becoming too technical for the average person.
No, but that's why those type of graphic novels have more of a book smell.
Exactly.
It's like a mix. It's a mix of comic and book because they use the same type of glue. It's the German bind.
Yep. And this is why when people say that the comic book industry, that the American comic book industry, I should say, is going to the toilet is because of piracy. They are completely full of shit because this is a collector's medium. People want to have this. People want to have a book in their hands, something they can take off the shelf, something that they can hold, It's the whole tactile experience.
Shane, I feel your pain, and let's just both blame Sim because I blame Sim for my sticker. You can blame him too.
Yeah, I agree. Sim makes a really good scapegoat.
# blame Sim.
We're just
and I appreciate.
We love it.
It's okay. I'm the one sharing that hashtag since everything started. # blame Sim.
And Metal Movies of Brewskis. Yeah, Drew absolutely delivers. You got your book in 7 days. I'm assuming that's because the post is probably running a little slow right now. I got mine in 3. Most people got theirs in 3. Also, it's going to come like in a Gemini mailer. It's going to be nice and secure. I got a book today from a Comicsgate person that shall not be named. And it was, a little bent. Oddly enough, right where it says "do not bend." I guess the mailman was like, "You're not the boss of me."
You're not the boss of me.
And I feel, and I'm not going to mention who that is because I feel bad, but I might send them like a little private note and be like, yeah, dude, next time, because I'll just put like some like dictionaries or encyclopedias on top of it. It'll smooth out, but not everybody is as understanding. But you see, that's another thing that's great about buying books from Comicsgaters. If you have a problem, let us know and we will sort it out because we want to be as kind to our customers as possible. We want our customers to be as happy as possible, not just for our own sake, but also for the collective too.
And you're going to run into all kinds of weird problems. Like there's this one guy that I'm not going to I dox him or anything. There's this one guy. He's in the U.S., but he's kind of like in a rural area, and I shipped him. He bought a Captain Special, so he got the featured thing. He's got both books and all 9 cards, right?
Yeah.
he has bought this a while ago, and it shipped to him, and then the U.S. Post Office said it was refused, and they shipped it back, and so I had to reclaim it. I had to pay for the shipping on the return.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, I checked the address. It was right. You know what I mean? I actually sent him an email, but he didn't respond. So I'm like, you know what? It's just the cost of shipping again. I'll ship it to the address again. You know what I mean? So I packaged it in a fresh envelope. You know what I mean? Sealed it tight. Put a new shipping sticker on it. Set it off again. Let's see how it goes. Right? Tracked it the whole way. You know, all these are tracked, so I know what's going on. You know.
Right.
And then this time it says that it was left on the porch. Right.
Right.
And then so I'm like, I tell him, okay, it's on your porch. You know, is it there? And he couldn't find it, didn't see it. You know what I mean? He was like really upset because he really wants to have a copy of the book. He read for it. You know what I mean? He spent
Who doesn't?
Yeah, he spent $50 too. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I want him to have it. And so it's like, okay. So I was like, you know what? You don't see it. I'm gonna throw another I'm gonna throw another captain special. It won't be the same numbers, obviously, because it's it's whatever's next in line. But I'll throw another original copy, another variant, another 9 trading cards. Wrap them up, set them up, sent them to him. Right. He just now, because he's got the tracking number this time. And I don't send the people tracking numbers every time, because if something goes wrong, I don't want them to know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless if we've engaged and I'm sending out another package or something like that, I'm going to send tracking. So the tracking this time, he checked it. He's checking it every day, and they said refusal again, and he did not refuse it. And he has one of those doorbells that captures. So he sent me screenshots of everybody who's been to the thing. And he says he's been home because he's laid off from COVID. You know what I mean? So there's no way the post office actually came to his door. Right.
So,
and he's getting mail at this address. So so this now creates a unique situation. Like that I'm going to have to figure out. And this is going to be one of those things that, will be a learning lesson for everybody in Comicsgate. So when I figure out the solution, I will definitely share it.
Well, but that's why I'm not so sure that people shitting on the digital option is correct, because you could always have sent them like a spiffy digital, not spiffy, but a digital edition.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of controversy over that. Some people are like, "Oh, your book's going to get pirated." I think the only people that are going to pirate your book or download a pirated version, if anything, it's going to act as a advertisement. I don't see people
exposure.
Exactly. This is something I disagree with John Malin on. And I think that especially there are people and farther in the far reaches of the earth who appreciate being able to have that option, and I'm definitely gonna
my philosophy is somewhere in between those two. I think that after something goes out of first edition, like it goes into second edition printing, then it can go to like digital, but only in a digital delivery format like Comixology. That's where I'm planning on doing my digitals. Like when I put my book on Amazon, I will also put it on Comixology. So
yeah, I have a thing with Comixology. I
have a thing with digitals, so fuck you.
I did a little in my digital version of the comic, and the digital premium perk. My designer did something really cool, which there's like a little interactive component towards the end where you have pinups, and then it says click here. And you click it, and then Rob, the book's protagonist, offers some remark about the pinup and the context.
That's great.
I think that's cool. There's fun little things you can do with digital that you can't do, obviously.
Right. Now that right there is something that I've been waiting to like bring up in a stream for the longest time, is the future of comics. You know what I mean? That I can see. Now this isn't going to be like a traditional standard physical copy comic, but at some point, the technology will exist that we can have interactive digital comics. You know what I mean? Where it's where we're actually like kind of as if you were watching it on a computer screen, but you know what I mean? Like if it was like a website or something, but it's all in one deliverable file.
they do have it. It's something called Madefire, I think. Mediafire, Madefire. It was like animated comics that you could go watch there, and you could have voice acting or not. There was ambient sound, special effects, and even
But
the
it was
bubbles
it
were
was
animating.
Well,
it,
let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. It's very limited in interactivity, but it's sort of cool. You see, like you click here. See, can you see anything? You
yes.
click it,
Yep.
and that
When,
shows up here.
when you clicked it, we couldn't though because you moved your screen.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was telling you. Madefire was doing it. So you click, then the bubble, then it
And the
one
bubble
after the
shows
other.
up. You do it
Yep.
again, and you click, and that shows up.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's cool. I mean, the kids will like it.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well,
guys, by the way, if I drop out suddenly, it's because my phone, it's charging, but for some reason this StreamYard thing is pumping so much battery out of the thing that it's down to
we're coming
3%.
up on 2.5 hours. We tend to push it anyway. So why don't we wrap this up? Everybody, thank you for coming. Make sure you take the time to check out the Tales from the Classroom. Don't call.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. And it was a great chat. And I hope we can do it again sometime. Let's get the horror peeps together, and maybe you can host.
Yeah, I think we should do it. We should do that horror trivia.
We should do that. We should.
Yeah.
We should. And Rob, you're always a cool and interesting guy, and your book looks like it's fire. So,
Thank you.
keep kicking ass and taking names.
And thanks, man. Likewise to all you guys. All right. Thank you for having me.
And everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you next Monday at 8:15 Eastern and 5:15 Pacific. Every Monday.
Peace out, everybody.
Go back the Monkey Slinger and the Space Lover, and don't forget
Blood
the
Hunt.
most badass vampire in comics. Well, boy.
Bye.